Protect yourself and your family from unexpected challenges. Consider accident-only income protection. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Boxing King Media in association with SaveMoreMoney.com out here in Dublin, Eddie Hearn. It's interesting, you know, we spoke about it a while ago, how boxing in Ireland is struggling. And you've got two shows on back to back.
Yeah.
What a gift to the Irish.
Yeah, I mean, last time, obviously, when Gary Cully lost, it was like head in hands. But don't worry, Katy Taylor's up next. And then Katy Taylor got beat. And I think a lot of Irish fans kind of felt like, oh, blimey, guess that's the end for us. But we come back with, I think, a more intriguing fight, a better card. Obviously, we're in Belfast next week as well. And I love being here, not just saying it, but the atmosphere. Like I was down Crumlin Boxing Club last night. It's really a part of the system. You know, it's a part of their heritage. They're very knowledgeable fight fans, and looking forward to an incredible atmosphere tomorrow.
I think you've raised it in the past about, you know, the financial side of putting shows on in Ireland. Have you had any outside help this time, or have you just kind of thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to go ahead with it?
Boxing doesn't get outside help, you know. I mean, commercially, it doesn't get outside help, which is unique because you've got people like, you know, governments and councils giving help and support to sailing competitions and chess competitions, but boxing gets overlooked at every level, from grassroots to elite. We never ask, really, for any help. When we go to countries now, you're seeing so many governments supporting, I mean, particularly obviously in the Middle East as well, trying to bring boxing to their country. I think in the UK and in Ireland and lots of places in Europe, you're just expected to do it, which is fine. Like, there's a lot of sports that don't get help. I'd rather the help come at grassroots level, because like when you go down to like the Crumlin last night, I mean, every kid in there would be up to no good, pretty much, if they weren't down there, if they were just hanging around, if they were in with the wrong crowd. And like, I just don't, I look at now, you know, all these clips that you, everything's filmed these days, isn't it, right? So every clip of kids fighting on the streets, every clips of kids pulling knives on each other, and like, I just know that boxing can help, but they don't see it, and they're not prepared to spend the time just to go and look. Do you know what I mean? And all this stuff that, you know, the investments that governments make across so many different levels, it doesn't require a lot of investment to just help these community clubs. All these coaches are there voluntarily. Like, you imagine a world now, the new generation saying to a young person, right, 4 nights a week, from 5 till 9, you've got to go down your local club and help out. They're going to be a dying breed because of the way people are living their lives. So, like, again, I'm not saying that boxing's going to kill knife crime and gang crime, but I'll tell you what, it will unquestionably help. It can only help. So, yeah, that's my little rant, really. But, you know, on a professional level, no, the answer was no.
To be fair, it's quite a deep argument, because we see, you know, people talk about how the British government, you know, gets involved in foreign conflict, foreign aid, all that kind of stuff. But as he's highlighted there, we've got a lot of issues in-house.
We don't look after our own. That's the problem. You know, we don't look after our own country. And that is like, how can you not do that? You're worrying about other countries. You're getting involved in other situations. I don't even know about these other situations. All I think about is boxing. So I can't even debate it. But what I know is our country, our people are struggling. The communities are struggling. People are out there carrying weapons. Kids are dying on the streets, getting stabbed. Like, and it's like, nowadays we seem to be so desensitized to stuff, don't we? You know, like, you look at stuff happening in the Middle East and, oh, that's terrible, on we go, right? Like, there was a time a few years ago that if someone lost their life on the streets of London, it was like, oh, I can't believe what's it. Now it's like, oh, what's that? Oh, bloke killed by a 14-year-old in Hackney. Oh, look, what's this one? Tesco's, some big fight in there. Someone got stabbed in Epsom the other day. I'm like, when is someone going to grab it by the horns and go, we've got to do something? Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, no one seems to care.
I agree with you there, Eddie.
Anyway.
This main event, Katy Taylor, a lot of people's consensus was that Chantal was the fair winner last time. If it is the same result this time, what are you thinking could potentially happen for Katy? Would you want her to carry on?
I mean, I think it's very harsh, and this is just life and sport, and particularly boxing, where if you lose to arguably the pound for pound number one at the weight division above your natural weight, should you call it a day? Like, I think you call it a day when your desire goes and you start deteriorating as a fighter. I don't think Katy's deteriorating as a fighter. Now, Saturday might tell us something different, but I'm convinced she'll be better this time. So if she's better this time, but loses a close decision, but wants to carry on and feels great and loves what she does, it's very hard to say, oh yeah, you should retire now. And I don't think she should, quite honestly, but she will always decide what happens in Katy Taylor's career. Like I said, I do feel like she will be better on Saturday night, but I'm also convinced that Chantel Cameron will be better as well. She's full of confidence going into this fight.
Pick me one fight from the undercard that you're looking forward to the most.
I was going to say Paddy Donovan against Danny Ball, but I think Reece Mould against Gary Cully after the presser. Like, when you talk about coming back from defeat, what happens to Gary Cully if he gets knocked out on Saturday? I mean, listen, fair play to jumping into another 50-50 fight. Reece Mould, Josh Warrington, all of those guys and the team, Sean O'Hagan, Max Hughes, they are absolutely convinced that Reece Mould wins this fight by knockout. The demons that Gary will face going back out there after what happened in May are not easy to overcome. And I love that fight.
Definitely should be an interesting card. A couple of other things I want to speak to you about. I think I spoke to you maybe 6-7 weeks ago, and I think the words you used was that AJ's ticking over at Ben Davison's gym. At what point did ticking over become, you're going to be my next coach?
I think really when the fight got offered to us and the time frame was 6 weeks, very, very difficult to fly to Dallas, recover, fly to Saudi. I mean, I would think AJ will go to Saudi 2 weeks out. So you've got 4 weeks of training. What you can't afford to do is fly to Dallas, 7-hour time difference, and that first week sort of be a bit lethargic. He's been training for 3 or 4 weeks already with Ben Davison. He spoke to Derek James and just felt that with the time constraints, this was the right place for him to train. I like the link up. Obviously, Ben Davison's got experience against Otto Warlin. I think it's a very tough fight. I really do. I think it's a very intriguing fight. And AJ's got to be aggressive in that fight. He's got to be confident. And I believe he'll be victorious.
How did Derek James take the news? Because obviously he's had him for a couple of fights now.
I don't know because I wasn't part of the conversation. But it wasn't, it's ultra amicable. And, they've definitely got a future together. I think he probably understood. He's got Ryan Garcia coming up on December 2nd. So he couldn't just down tools and fly to England. And really, you would have had 3 to 4 weeks in Dallas, and it just doesn't make sense. So everybody's happy and confident to move ahead.
Another thing I noticed as well, because there's not been any official announcement or any mention. I know you've said it, and a few people assumed it based on social media posts. Why do you think there's not been like an official thing to say? Because obviously AJ is a big name in British boxing. If a club changes managers, people kind of make an announcement. That kind of example.
Just like, he respects a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? And like, for him, as I just explained it, it's very straightforward and simple, but everything just gets analysed. Everything gets stuck under a microscope. Oh, what's happened there? Have they fallen out? And he's just like, I can't be asked. Like, I mean, maybe he should have just said what I said, but I say it for him in that respect because that's the truth. So there's really nothing to analyse in this situation. It just, with the time frame we had, this made more sense.
Talking of people that analyse things, the guys on TalkSport, is it fair to say their way of media, is it more like, football commentary where you're a lot more critical and you say what you want about footballers, but it's rare that you're going to go and then interview them? But obviously boxing, it's a bit different, and I think you touched on it the other day where, they've fallen out with, a lot of the big names in boxing. So, knowing, you've been involved in it as well, who do we blame? Is it the fighters been too sensitive, or do they need to rein it in?
Well, it's a mad world, isn't it, where anybody can get in front of a fighter and start questioning their performance or questioning their credentials or, anything. And I think that, it's a situation where it's a really unique situation, and it's a different world to any other sport, any other media. Like, the journalists and writers don't get a chance to sit down with football players and talk about their performance. In fact, they're kept miles apart. But we're accessible, and I think that's good for the sport. And we need help in driving a fighter's profile. So you guys are a big part of that as well. I just think that if you're going to talk in a certain way and give your opinion on a show or a fighter, you also got to be in return prepared to debate that at the right time. You want to stick it on us, and you want to make sure that, you know, you're asking us the tough questions. Well, if you believe that strongly, you've got to be in a situation where, you know, you, like, if we're talking about the Adam Catterall situation, he had so many opportunities to have a great debate there, actually, with his points. And I think he would have been able to have a lot of valid points in that argument. There are a lot of holes in what Frank was saying, but he didn't, it's not really what he's used to, you know. But if he's going to have that opinion on air, you can't phone people up and ask to interview them and them not question what you're saying.
To be fair, I wouldn't have faced Frank because he looked like he was ready to throw a right hook. A couple of last things. Katy Taylor and Eubank Jr. both been very silent over the last couple of months. Obviously, you've done a lot of talking, suggested that date in Feb, but them guys aren't saying anything. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, they're negotiating. I mean, you know, Katy and Eubank will be working on their next fight. Obviously, the fight is Conor Ben, going mad, yeah? And I think that it's very difficult to get that fight over the line when there's so much hatred. And obviously, it's a massive fight as well. From our side, we're ready to go. But if they're not ready to go, we're going to move on. And Conor's ready to move on if that doesn't get done imminently. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, we're ready to go. We're ready to make that fight. It's the biggest fight in Britain, and we'll see if we can get it done.
The reason I'm asking, because Sky have obviously gone with that date as well, and common sense tells you that they wouldn't challenge the Eubank Ben fight because it's obviously a far bigger fight. So any suggestions that would Ben still go on that date?
Maybe. I mean, that's the date for Ben Eubank at Tottenham. So if we get it done, they'll have a decision whether they want to move the card or not. But you know, for us, that's definitely the target date.
Last thing, Billy Joe Saunders, any news on him? Opponent?
He may go on that card. You know, he wants a comeback fight, but we want to get him out ASAP, and that would be a good date, and obviously a lot of narrative for that.
This is the last one. You said the other day you're the top blagger. What's the biggest blag you've done in boxing since you've been involved?
Probably like just turning up at Wembley and booking it for Froch Goes Too. Like, it's 10 years now since the first fight, and the second fight was really a complete punt. Like, nothing had been done like that before. There was no method, there was no blueprint to say any fight in Britain sells 80,000 tickets, you know, but we did it, and that was a big blag that paid off.
Top man, thank you, Eddie.
Have you ever been stranded on the side of a motorway with a broken down car? Like me, is that something that worries you? That's where motor breakdown insurance comes in. If your vehicle breaks down, a trained professional will be sent out to get you back on the road. Or if this is not possible within the specified time frame, to transport you to your home or to the nearest garage.